I think the players are going to get a wake-up call in this next CBA, and I hope it doesn't happen. But if there's a lockout, I will not be one bit surprised.
And welcome back to the What Are They Gonna Say Now podcast. I'm Tony, and this is Jay. And we're just going to talk, like we usually do, a little bit about variety of topics, but mostly about the NBA today, I think. So I think
1 month into the season.
Right. And we were going to talk about some of the teams that are doing really well and surpassing expectations, but I think we have to start with a team near and dear to our hearts that's just
the biggest disappointment in the league so far.
Just really struggling. Yeah, and they barely resemble themselves.
Obviously, we're talking about the Golden State Warriors.
Right. Yeah, it's not good.
When they started the season off slow, I wasn't that worried about it because, one, championship hangover is a real thing. Not for every team, but it's a real thing. Mm-hmm. And they're doing the two timelines thing. They have the veterans, and then they have the youngins, and they're trying to run those two timelines. And it worked great last year because they had a good balance where the youngins kind of got worked into it, but then they had a good proportion of vets coming off the bench. And this year, losing, Bielitsa, GP2, Otto Porter Jr., even Damian Lee, Juan Toscano Anderson, all those guys had some reps under them. They were veterans. Mm-hmm. And that really balanced things out. They are now very much two timeline, and we're seeing not great results from it. And early on, Kerr was definitely pushing those lineups, the hockey line lineups like we talked about. But when things started really looking bad, he's had to shift to cutting down the rotations. James Wiseman sent down the G League, which I think was the right move. Mm-hmm. But they're still having trouble. We're just coming off of last night. Steph goes off 50 points on high efficiency, 28 attempts.
Super efficient, yeah.
28 attempts, 50 points, and you're losing by double digits. I'm officially worried.
Yeah.
I'm officially worried. This is not – we're far enough into the season now. They're – couple games under 500 in a stacked conference. Granted, the West is so tough as a conference that there's a lot of parity and no one's running away with it.
Yeah.
So you go on a streak and you're right back in it, but I am officially now worried about them, and I'm going to expect probably they're not going to overreact and do it too soon, but some moves are going to happen.
Yeah, I think it is worrisome. I think the biggest thing about the two timeline thing that you're talking about is that you just have a lot of wasted roster spots right now. You have a lot of guys who are young and who aren't getting play because they're not playing well enough, like Wiseman. Kuminga's kind of hit or miss. I'd like to see him play more. I know last night I believe he was ill, so he wasn't able to play last night. It wasn't a coach's decision. But there's been some coach's decisions where he's just kept him out. And I think he's a guy that you got to get into more games and just get him some. He's going to have to learn. He's going to have to get minutes. But
it's worth noting Phoenix. Chris Paul didn't even play.
Right. Yeah.
So when your MVP is playing like an MVP and you're still struggling, that is huge cause for concern. The Warriors are 6-9, and let me give you Steph's splits for the year. He's averaging 33 points a game, 70% true shooting, which is just insane. That's above his unanimous MVP season. Mm-hmm. 53, 45, 93. That's godlike.
Insane.
That's godlike.
Yeah. So
you have your best player playing out of his mind, and you're 3 games under 500. Not good.
Yeah, right. The road struggles are real. I think one of the biggest issues, maybe the biggest issue. Yeah, Jordan Poole is struggling. Klay Thompson is way struggling. I mean,
Jordan Poole,
26,
27 minutes last night, 2 points.
Yeah, right.
That can't happen. He needs to put up 10.
I think he only shot 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
I was hearing some stats, so that can't happen.
No.
Klay's gunning and trying to get back to his old self, and it's not working. You know, he'll have games where he hits a good amount of threes, but it's never super efficient.
On the season,
Yeah.
Klay has slightly less points than shot attempts.
Wow.
And that is not good.
That's bad.
Really not good. And
Right.
I know he was injured all that time off, you know, and he didn't really play over the summer. He was advised medically to take it easy on his body, which I totally get, because he came back in, and that was a long playoff run all the way, obviously. And I get that, and I have patience for him. But what he's starting to do too much is he is forcing it to a really bad degree that doesn't fit with the Warriors system. There's been a couple of times where he dribbles down in transition with 19 seconds left on the shot clock and chucks it up, and like Wiggins is over in the corner wide open.
Yeah, he did that
Wiggins,
twice
who's
last
been a
night.
better three.
Yeah,
he did it twice last night.
The first one was not bad, but the second one, Wiggins was wide open. He could have kicked it right to him. Yeah.
And I don't want to jump the gun. People are already talking about bringing Klay off the bench, and I mean, from a win right now standpoint, I'd have to agree, but I don't feel like you can do that so quickly with him. You have to give him more leash. I mean, hey, look, I'm as Klay as it gets. I mean, here we
go. Bring it out. Oh, the 77. Wow, you got
77.
Yeah,
Thompson
that's
jersey.
the rare one there.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a Klay guy all the way.
I'm a Klay guy. Yep. I got one of them
I know.
bobbleheads. Man, I mean, I'm just saying, like, yeah, that's my guy. But
it's painful to watch, and he just needs to tone it down. Take a couple less shots a game, focus on high quality shots, stop forcing it, and I think it'll come together. He's just out there chucking, kind of like he was when he came back from the injury last year, when he came back in January, and that was fine. The Warriors were first or second in the West. They had lots of padding to play with. They're behind the 8 ball right now. I mean, they need to not mess around, you know, and yeah, you can't just bench him like that. I mean, that would be so demoralizing for him. Yeah. But he does need to tone it down. I'm sure Kerr is talking to him about that. You know, like, hey, look, like Wiggins was wide open in the corner. Wiggins is shooting over 40% from 3 this year. Klay is shooting 33% from 3. By far the worst of his career, 10% lower than normal, right? Right. He needs to tone it down, and I think he knows this, and I'm sure they're emphasizing it. And Curry even made some comments. Not that Curry is like a passive-aggressive subtweeter of sorts. And he even said in the postgame, you know, a lot of guys are out there chasing the box score and not just playing team ball. And it was like, ooh, is he talking about Klay? He doesn't really. I think he was just being honest, and it kind of slipped out because he doesn't say stuff like that. But I mean, Curry's out there crushing the box score, but look how efficient he is.
Yeah, right. And it's not just Klay. We can't just blame Klay.
It's not just Klay. It's the bench and the second unit. The second unit is a problem.
It's a problem.
It's a huge problem.
JaMychal Green was not good last night. He was, I don't know, he's missing a lot of interior shots. I mean, the defense is the thing. I think that's the most concerning part to me, because that's always been kind of a calling card of the Warriors is, offense. They're going to struggle from time to time with the shots, but when they need to lock in, they can lock in. This team can't lock in defensively. They look like they're struggling. The entire mantra of the Kerr Warriors from the beginning is that our defense leads to our offense. Yep. And it's also, it makes sense in a X's and O's sense as well. It's if you get stops on the defensive end, you're then one of the best transition offenses in NBA history. It helps. If you're not getting stops, then you're getting down into the half court. Yep. And they've been in the half court all season. Curry still putting up these crazy numbers, largely from the half court, is insane. And you talk about early MVP conversations. He's there, but you can't. But he can't. On a team with a losing record, he's out of the mix completely. He should be leading that conversation. It's a shame that he's with all due respect to Luka and Giannis and or maybe not leading. I mean, maybe he should be like on the high list of MVP. Yeah, but you can't. But he's not even on the list right now because of you have a losing record. You have a losing record. End of story. Yep. So 0-8 on the road now.
0-8 on the road, the worst road record in the league.
You know, I are we even going to get back to 500 on the road for the season? I don't know.
And they were always the road warriors. That was part of their thing, right?
Absolutely. So very disappointing.
A couple weeks ago, I was like a 3 out of 10 concerned.
Okay.
I'm now like a 7 or 8 out of 10 concerned easily.
Okay. DEFCON 7.
And yeah, I don't think we need to bench Klay. Not yet. Give him a couple of weeks minimum. Let him kind of sort it out.
Yeah.
And I do think he's going to come around. But I do think we are going to need to trade some young guys away and bring in some veterans, because you cannot waste Steph Curry at this level.
Yeah.
He's doing things. He's about to turn 35. He's doing things at that age that no one in NBA history has done. Like every other night, it's like first player over 34 to do this or that, or he scored over 30 in all but one game.
Ridiculous.
And the one game was he had 16 and it was a blowout against the Spurs, and he didn't play the last quarter and a half.
Right.
You know, so he scored like 16 in 21 minutes, and that was it.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's my general feeling on it too. I feel like, you know, I do understand them trying to have a plan in place for when these guys are done. You know, for when Steph and Klay and Draymond hang it up. They want to be able to have, you know, to go into basically a team that's ready built to contend. But my thinking on it is that, you know, you're only going to get this type of player, a Steph Curry, once in a generation.
Yeah. So you cannot waste it. You cannot waste it.
No, you can't.
Last year we were on the same page that, hey, it's working. You don't need to make any trades. It's working great. It's fine. The vets off the bench are looking good. Roll with it. And it worked out perfectly. This year, there's a reality check. It's not working. And as much as I'm all for the future, I would much rather go all in with Steph for the next 3 years while he's out of his mind what he's doing at 34. It's crazy. I would rather go all out with Steph for the next 3 or 4 years.
And if we have to rebuild, we have to rebuild. Whatever it is.
If we have a dog shit team after that for a couple years and have to rebuild, that's fine. I'd rather do that than just see what Curry's doing be wasted.
It's painful. It's painful to watch that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, this is the best he's ever played, including United's MVP season. He is playing out of his mind.
Yep.
With less help.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's a shame. You know, I'm kind of hopeful that they're going to pull things together. I don't think Poole is going to play this bad the whole season. Klay, I think, is notoriously a really slow starter.
Yeah,
like
well documented.
His first couple months of the season are always a little slow, even pre-injury. He always kind of works himself up to, you know, what he's, you know, ramps up to what he's going to be for playoff level Klay. So
it's honestly, it's shot selection. He is taking some sloppy forced shots, and he can hit those when he's on fire, but he hasn't been on fire. So if he just tidies up his shot selection, makes the right play, kicks it out to Wiggin in the corner, who's wide open, does those things, it should be relatively easy to clean up.
That's going to open up his shot too, right? If he's passing a lot more, if he's pass first, kind of, you know, opening up his shot, then the defense is going to react to that. He's going to get open. He's going to get open looks.
Yeah. When you start chucking, teams know to contend right away on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like your fake won't work because they know you're going to shoot, or, you know, like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he's going to be able to tidy that up. I certainly hope so. People are putting too much blame on him, though. I mean, the second unit is still – I mean, the splits are still – I don't have the split after last night's game, but prior to that, when Curry is on the floor, they are plus 77. Wow. When Curry is off the floor, negative 79. They are literally one of the best teams in the entire league with Curry on the floor. And then when he's off the floor, the worst. Not one of the worst, the worst.
Yeah, that's not sustainable. And
on the other hand, you can also say, well, your starting unit with Curry is doing so well. If you can just patch those other things up so you're not bleeding, that's fixable versus an offense where your starting lineup sucks. That's a bigger problem. So I do think the Warriors are going to patch this up, but I'm still very concerned.
Yeah, I am too. I think I've been, I mean, there's no silver line. You can't say anything's been great. DiVincenzo, I think, has been pretty good. He hit some threes last night. I like how he moves the ball around. Yeah. He's kind of a pass first guy, but, you know, can create, can make his own shot.
He could be our Bielitsa this year.
Yeah, exactly. I think he can be a good vet. Jermichael Green, I'm kind of a question mark on right now. I don't know what the fit is. I feel like they were playing him at the 4 before. He's not really a 4, he's a 5, but like last night he seemed really slow-footed and just missing layups, and it was really rough, those non-Looney minutes. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if this is the team that finishes the year, or if,
mentioning Looney, another bright spot. Looney has been fantastic.
Yeah,
he's coming right into it, right off of last year's playoff run. He's just solid. He's solid. He's there. He's getting rebounds. Yeah. He's very selective with his shots inside. He has a good, shooting percentage. Mm-hmm. He's just been great. Looney's such a professional. He really is. He knows his role. He doesn't get outside of it, and he's so good at it. So he's been great. So I think they're going to pull this together. But man, what a bad start! I did not see this coming. I know championship hangovers happen, but this is a really bad one.
Yeah, it is. It is. We'll see what happens.
All right. Other NBA news. We have to keep talking about it because the Nets and that whole drama. Yeah. And this also bleeds into the Celtics. So, Kyrie suspended and all that. And then Josiah gave him the 6 things that he needs to do, after his apology, especially when you triple down on being defiant about the original tweet and all that.
Right.
And then you can't just say sorry on an Instagram post. like he had plenty of opportunities on camera to be more sincere, and he didn't. He did it on an Instagram post, which is kind of like, okay. Right. And so Josiah gives him the 6 things. And first of all, as a context, let's read off the 6 things. I have them right here.
Okay.
He needs to apologize and condemn the movie. $500K donation to anti-hate causes, which he originally pledged, right? Mm-hmm. Sensitivity training, definitely needs that. Anti-Semitic training, needs that. Meet with the Anti-Defamation League and Jewish leaders, and meet with Josiah to demonstrate understanding. So he did meet with Josiah, and oddly, although I think Josiah was trying to make things he's trying to help his organization. He says, I don't think Kyrie's anti-Semitic. And then everyone's like, well, then why is he still suspended? It's like, well, no, we laid these things out for him. He needs to do them.
Right. He still did a stupid thing, even if he's not.
Right.
If he doesn't think he's anti-Semitic. So.
I'm not sure I buy that he's not anti-Semitic, to be honest, but whatever.
He might be saying all the right things.
Right. And you know what? Someone can play in the league and have horrible beliefs. That's okay, as long as you're not vocally trying to spread them or whatever.
Right.
And what was a problem was it was that, he's still suspended. And then Jaylen Brown, who is vice president, along with Kyrie, of the Players Union, says on Twitter, this is very alarming or whatever. And it's like those 6 things that we just listed, not that big a deal, given everything that happened.
Right.
And then I will give Jaylen Brown this. He's a good speaker. So in his press conference, he talks about it and how it could have ramifications in the CBA negotiation in the offseason, the collective bargaining agreement. Mm-hmm. And man, I think the players, that's a bad look, especially since Jaylen should have just not touched it, especially because he was already connected to Kanye West. I know a lot. I have some friends who are Celtics fans. They're like, shut up, stay out of this. CJ McCollum is the president of the Players Association, and he already said his piece. Jaylen didn't need to say anything, but now he's closely connected to the 2 big time in the news anti-Semitic players or people.
Right.
Kanye is not a player, but not a good look, and that's very concerning for Boston. But more so, there seems to be a lack of self-awareness, and if I had to bet on there being a lockout before the beginning of next season, I would bet on it happening because, the player empowerment thing I was all for, but it's definitely gotten out of hand. The owners were already pissed off. You have 4 years left in your contract. You're demanding a trade and holding us hostage and blah, 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 blah. Huge concern already. So they were already not happy with how things were going and all ready to go to war. And now this sort of thing with Kyrie, given, what he did was clearly, not good for the team. It was detrimental to the team. That's right there in the CBA, and the terms set forth were very reasonable. It wasn't anything crazy. I think the players are going to get a wake up call in this next CBA, and I hope it doesn't happen. But if there's a lockout, I will not be one bit surprised. And I honestly think, I mean, they need to get Kyrie off of that in the first place, and Jalen, if he keeps going on this route, they need to get him off of that too.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that those, like you said, those people are in leadership roles within your organization, or your the players' union, that's not a good look. Like you said, it's fine for people to have thoughts and feel a certain way about, oh well, I don't think Kyrie's being treated fairly, but the fact that you're putting things out there like that and not condemning the things he did, but trying to stick up for him instead, it's not good.
No. And yeah, I mean, we're going to see what happens. I just think so much of what happens in sports, player versus, players union versus league, when those conflicts happen during negotiations, it becomes about public perception.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're having these guys who are kind of making fools of themselves front and center. And that's not what you want, because honestly, most of the time, I feel like the general American public tends to side with the owners, which I don't. In almost all those, baseball, football, I'm usually on the players' side fully.
Mm-hmm.
This time around, I'm kind of like, owners kind of have a point, And I mean, that's a bad sign. Who I'm usually the union players guy, and I'm kind of like, I might be split on this one. That's a very, very bad sign for public perception for the players coming up. And I'm sure those NBA owners are smart. They're very aware of this. And I think they understand that this is only helping to give them leverage.
Right.
When that happens. So really, I understand, like, CJ McCollum was pretty straightforward with, like, it's a little concerning, blah, blah, blah. He didn't say anything too outrageous. I understand that. He's, took a better approach to it. But we'll see, and I hope it doesn't lead to a lockout, but I will not be one bit surprised if it does.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. There's been lockouts for far less, so right? I mean, in the past. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Hopefully they can pull it together and not lose games and not have it be a big issue, but we'll have to see.
And in other Nets news, unfortunately, we have Kevin Durant throwing his teammates under the bus. Let me read the quote. Here we go. KD says, "Look at our starting lineup. Edmund Sumner, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, Claxton, and me. It's not disrespect, but what are you expecting from that group?" First of all, it's definitely disrespect to your teammates. Right. I don't know if his point was that we need Kyrie back, but
probably
Kyrie, I mean, they left 153 points to Sacramento. Let me tell you, Kyrie is not going to shore up your defense. He's one of the worst defensive players in the league.
Right.
And it's just such a bad look. Like, KD, why say that? Why are you saying that? That can't make your teammates happy.
No.
And that plays into the whole narrative of KD being a shitty leader.
We saw that some of that in Golden State. Not necessarily publicly throwing teammates under the bus, but just not really being one of those guys who's like down with the group he's with, right? He's more of a it's me against the world, I'm the greatest, I'm KD, and you praise him for some of that, but at the same time, if you're one of his teammates and he's supposed to be rocking with you and he's supposed to be riding with you and he's not committing or throwing your name under the bus, like, that's not great.
Well, and it's also rich for KD or Kyrie, but in this case KD, to complain about the construction of the Nets roster, which they played a huge role in. I mean, let's get DeAndre Jordan in here at his contract, and let's ship out Jared Allen, all-star center now. How much better would their defense look with Jared Allen? Like, dude,
man.
You were
we brought that up so many times, but it's so true, man.
You were instrumental in the roster as constructed. Yeah. You can't bitch about it. That's on you.
Anyone can coach this team. Remember? Anyone.
Yeah.
We could coach the team ourselves. It's like,
so this whole thing, it's like, don't act like you just got brought in as some free agent and you had nothing to do with anything. Just stop.
Yeah.
Dude can't help himself.
Oh, and I don't know if you saw it today, but Stephen A. Smith, talking about the Warriors, basically their struggles, saying, well, maybe they should trade and get KD back. Just like, oh my God, here we go. I know a lot of people.
I mean, that's like
throw that around.
That's not the craziest thing I've heard Stephen A. Smith say.
No, I don't. First of all, I don't ever see it happening. I think
Curry would be more open to it now than he probably was a couple of months ago.
Probably would. I can't see the way that he left and then us winning a title and all the talk and all this and that. I also
don't see Curry getting a burner account on Twitter and saying, "Can't win with these cats."
Yeah. No, I can't see that either. Plus, what we'd have to give up to ship him out. I mean, it'd basically be giving up on the youth movement and probably getting rid of Wiggins.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Wiggins has been solid. He's been fine.
At this point, I'd rather work on shoring up what we have and let KD do what KD's going to do. So,
all right. So we were talking about disappointing teams. We kind of already dwelled on this before, so I don't want to go deep into it. But Minnesota has been disappointing. We talked previously about their starting lineup and how the Twin Towers didn't make much sense, and you're kind of seeing it play out. It's too early. I mean, I'm sure they're going to figure out some rotations and probably turn that around. Same thing with Miami Heat. I think they're just it's an older team, slow start. Spoelstra is going to bring them around. Not a lot of other surprises. Cleveland, hot start, tailing off a little bit. Utah is still hanging in there, although they've lost a couple games now.
Yeah. Just real quick before you go forward, I just had a stat on I know we talked about Minnesota before, but they've been really disappointing. We talked about the lineups. And
their starting five is a problem.
And their starting five, yeah. So there was a stat about Donovan Mitchell and Gobert in particular, that combination.
Sure.
When they were in Utah, they would complain that, Gobert doesn't get the ball. Gobert would complain about it.
And Mitchell doesn't play defense.
Right. Yeah. Mitchell was passing the ball to him 4.4 times a game in Utah, was getting Gobert the ball. Mm-hmm. And there's a stat with Anthony Edwards and Gobert in Minnesota this year. He's passing to him 1.7 times per game. Literally, they've run 125 pick and rolls, and Gobert's got the ball 4 times out of those. So It's like it's alarming, and I think it's alarming that Gobert's been on 2 teams now, and it seems like teammates kind of freeze him out. I don't know what the disconnect is there. I don't know what the problem
Whereas Mitchell is looking great in Cleveland, and he stepped up his defense.
Right,
he's actually playing really good defense from what I've seen.
Yeah.
When the Warriors beat them, but he was playing really well.
Yeah,
so
they played well. Yeah,
we said previously that this is going to be a big referendum on both players, and it sure is looking good for Mitchell so far more than Gobert.
Absolutely.
Which I like because I was high on Mitchell being a young player, and I was always skeptical about Gobert's impact as a two-way player, despite being a great defender.
Right,
both ends matter. So
I didn't mean to interrupt you though. You were saying
I was saying
the other teams.
Well, no, bright points.
Okay.
Dame back and the Trailblazers. They're 10-3 in first place, and they could be we're as wrong about them right now so far as we were about the Warriors.
Yeah.
So they look good. We're gonna see how it pans out over time. Yeah, Utah's hanging in there. And then let's give some credit to the Sacramento Kings, who put up 153 on the Nets the other night.
Yeah.
And they beat the Warriors in a tough game, and they got Mike Brown as their coach, defensive-minded, and just a solid guy. And it's kind of nice to see. The Kings are what's their record now? The Kings are 7-6. 7-6. They're not blowing the world away.
4 in a row.
7-6, four in a row, putting it together, and it's good to see. I mean, longest drought in sports right now, playoff drought in sports. So I'm rooting for the Kings. It's a good start.
They've had a tough go of it. That we remember back in the day, early 2000s, when the Kings were like a powerhouse.
Playing the Lakers in the playoffs.
Playing the Lakers, Weber, Vlade Divac. I mean, they just had a lot, they had a lot of like really like cool characters and just they were a really fun team to root for when the Warriors were terrible too. It's kind of like, oh man, look at this team. They had the whole cowbell thing. They would ring the cowbells when it would get hype in the Arco Arena. I remember that being cool. So it's kind of cool to see them like getting back to like being a team that's just fun, just a team. Who knows what they're actually going to do as far as contending. But
well, I will say, I still hate the trade getting rid of Halliburton. I did say in the short term, and I think in our NBA preview, I did say in the short term they'll be better in the short term because Sabonis is good.
He's been great,
and he's been playing great.
Yeah,
but he's also due for a contract extension next year.
Yeah, right.
So there's that. But he's been playing great, and you know what? The Kings are probably just like, you know what? We need to make the playoffs.
Ride this wave. Yeah,
yeah. So I think long term they're going to regret that trade, but it won't be the worst thing ever either. Like they're just trying to change their culture. Although,
listen, man, I'm just happy for the Kings fans. They've suffered through a lot, and I was going to bring up. I don't know if you saw any of the buzz on this.
The beam you were talking about. The beam.
Yeah,
it's on my radar. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, like, after every Kings win now, they light up this super bright purple beam up out of the arena, and it's just a cool thing. I think they just started doing it on a whim, and now you have fans, tweeting for them to light the beam, and there's like a beam Twitter account, and like it's just like that. Like the optimism right now in Sacramento is really high, and I like seeing fun things like that for fans that have been so miserable for so long. Just having something to look forward to, and the players are getting into it too, and yeah, man, it's they have a solid squad right now.
Yeah, and they're fun to watch too. That's I split my time between the North Bay and then up in Truckee, Tahoe, so I drive through Sacramento all the time, and I'm gonna definitely try and score some tickets and go see a game soon.
Hey, you might not be able to get them, man. They're going to be sold out. They're going to be that's going to be a harder ticket to get than the Warriors, man. I don't know.
Chase Center tickets. The Warriors will be like 15 games under 500. They'll still cost $250.
Still right, exactly. Yeah. It's like the Knicks and Nets.
That's a really nice arena they have in Sacramento too, the new one. So
I haven't been to that. I went to Arco a few times for Kings Warriors games back in the day, because it used to be a little cheaper to take a quick trip up there. But yeah, that seems like it would be a lot of fun to be around.
Check it out and go to a game. Hope they win, and I'll take a picture of the beam.
Do a live report from the beam.
Live report from the beam. Yeah, so that's cool. Awesome. So I'm rooting for them for sure.
Yeah.
They need it. So
yep, absolutely.
All right. Anything else NBA wise popping out at you right now after a month of the season?
I'm trying to think of other surprising teams, if there's any surprising teams in the East.
Oh, I do want to give a little shout out to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Did I butcher his name? I always have trouble with that one.
I think you got it right.
He is, he's in the obscurity of OKC, right? But he's playing great. He's putting up crazy numbers. Like, and this is really, it's not very accurate early on, but, NBA Reference says the MVP tracker or whatever based on all the things. And I think he popped up on the bottom of that list just this week. Because he's putting up some crazy numbers. He is definitely a front runner right now for most improved player.
I think he was putting up a lot of stats earlier in the season. Is he close to triple double? I thought I remember hearing that. Maybe that was really early and he's not doing that anymore, but I know he's.
I'm pulling it up right now. So
he's super underrated.
Yeah. So he is. Man, he's averaging 31.5 points a game, 94% at the line, effective field goal percentage of 56%. He's shooting 38% from three. Man, he's playing great.
Wow.
And
that's good.
So last season he averaged 24 points a game. So he's right now he's at 31.
Yeah.
He's definitely on the radar for most improved. So that's cool to see.
Yeah.
We're going to see in the next couple of years after all these draft picks and everything, OKC is going to emerge, especially, Chet Holmgren got hurt. And especially if, he keeps playing like this, some other guys coming in, in 3 years from now, watch out.
Yeah.
Right. They have some other young pieces too, and they have draft picks galore.
Yeah.
So
no, they're fun to watch, mostly because of him right now. So that's kind of a cool story that he's kind of leading them there. I did want to give go ahead. No, I was going to say
on a similar note, talk about draft picks. Utah Jazz are playing really well, and they still have all those draft picks.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So watch out for them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to give a quick shout out also to the team out in New York, man. Not the Nets, but the Knicks. They've been playing pretty well, man. They hit a little rough patch there, but Jalen Brunson,
Good signing for them, Brunson.
good signing for them, man. Randall's playing really well. I think they've won 3 in a row now, and they come in to play the Warriors tomorrow night, which,
Yeah.
beforehand I would have said, oh, that's, Warriors easy win. Now I'm kind of like,
Yeah. Well, and I will say
see.
on top of that, with how Brunson's been playing well there and how Mitchell has looked in Cleveland. Remember, Mitchell was supposed to end up also on the Knicks.
On the Knicks.
That's a big, what if the Knicks had gotten them both?
Yeah. Oh, man. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know.
But no, I think
sorry, Knicks fans. Sorry, but I'm sure you've thought about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, they think about Steph Curry a lot, too, being one pick away from him. I hear a lot.
Yeah, but this was a free agent thing where they were in the mix specifically versus,
Yeah. Yep. But no, I think that, they're 8-7, so they're not setting the world on fire, but they're in 8th place in the East. And I think they're playing well. So I just wanted to throw them in as
You got to keep your New York friends
surprising.
happy.
That's right. My brother-in-law would kill me if I didn't mention them at least. So.
All right. Well, I think we got the NBA covered.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a little bit here. I don't want to deep dive the NFL, but I do want to talk about a couple key stories. And what I really liked from last week and really before that was, so the Colts were looking horrible. They fire their head coach, and then Jim Irsay hires Jeff Saturday, former offensive lineman. And he has very little head coaching experience, and it is openly mocked everywhere. And then people are accusing the Colts of tanking. Oh, you're going to hire this guy with very little head coaching. Oh, no head coaching experience, right?
No, zero.
Not in college or anything. Yeah. And they were just hammering it all week. So you know what I did immediately? I logged on, checked out how many points they were getting, and I bet on the Colts. And they won the game outright on top of that. And this also it speaks to, well, first of all, we should add that people continuously say, they've said this for years, that offensive linemen are some of the smartest guys on an NFL team. There's so many blocking schemes that they have to do, both on pass block and also running around the edge, certain things like that. They say routinely that the linemen, man, they have so much responsibility, and they are some of the smartest guys. So Saturday he's going to a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, and there's a couple different types of head coaches in the league. There's the X and O guy, the coordinator. Take your Kyle Shanahan, your McVay, X and O geniuses, offensive coordinators who then take over, and sometimes they call their own plays, but if not, they're heavily involved on one side or the other. There's also the other type of coach who they understand the X's and O's, but they rely on their coordinators and they just try and steer the ship. Jim Harbaugh comes to mind when he was the Niners head coach. Good coordinators, mostly. And, you hire these guys and you trust them and you oversee the philosophy, but then you just keep your eye on the big picture, motivating your players and doing that. So I thought people were overlooking Jeff Saturday a little bit. Offensive lineman all those years. It's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. And they're like, oh, he didn't even head coach in college. Well, you know what? College football, I don't know if anyone's paid attention, looks very little like the NFL. It's a different sport. So while I understand that experience matters to some degree, I think it's overblown. The NFL is a totally different game than college football.
I definitely agree with that. I'm not blaming Jeff Saturday for that happened. Basically, if anybody was offered a head coaching job in the NFL,
you take it.
Yeah, I listened to a clip. Joy Taylor. I don't know if you know her. She's
I know the name. Yeah.
Yeah. She does podcasts, speaks about different topics, but she just brought up that it sets kind of a bad precedent of hiring somebody with zero experience, just from like a connection to the owner or something like that. it sets a bad precedence for people in the organization basically trying to work themselves up and being put in a position to possibly get a head coaching job one day. And basically you have a guy who comes in with no experience, nothing, no track record of being able to coach on that level or any level and being given that job. And I just wanted to bring that counterpoint up it's a tough look as well.
Can I give you a counterpoint?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know who didn't have any head coaching experience and then took over a team and did pretty well?
Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr.
Yeah. No, you're right. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, I guess. I think
some of the process is overblown because being a good coordinator doesn't necessarily, we've seen plenty of great coordinators become shitty head coaches. I just think it's overblown because it's also just about the overview and guiding your group of guys and trusting your coordinators and the X's and O's and not to mention the X and O's. The X's and O's in football can be overblown a little bit. There are basic set packages, just basic plays that everybody knows. And then everyone does wrinkles and variations on them, but there's basic sets. And sometimes if you keep it simple and have your guys execute, that can go a long, long way versus getting overly cued and doing this and that. And then it doesn't work because you made it too complicated, which, we see that happen too. So
I hear you. I
kind of like the story. I like the story. Everyone was bagging on him all week, and then he goes out and wins. He puts Matt Ryan back in the head quarterback as quarterback too, who had been benched. So he went with the vet.
Like I said, I'm not hating on him. I'm not saying I'm not like even overly mad at it. I just wanted to bring up that counterpoint that and she basically brought up the subject that a lot of people of color have been trying to go for some of those roles and being told, you hear every excuse in the book. Oh, well, you don't have enough experience or, this and that.
Oh, yeah.
And these are people who have worked themselves up and have, I know specifically for NBA jobs, guys who have coached in college, guys who have coached G League, guys who have legitimate coaching experience that could translate. Right. And they're basically told, oh, well, it's not exactly the experience that we're looking for. And then you see a guy picked up off the sidelines and be like, here, take this job.
100% true, 100% true and fair. I think a key distinction here is he's the interim head coach. I think it would have been a more egregious signing if it had been the off season versus it was already a train wreck. Interim coach. Also, he played for the Colts for many years, so he knows he knows the culture and the organization, and it's all familiar to him. Plus, he was an analyst. He was an analyst on ESPN prior. So I think the interim aspect makes a difference here versus if they had just done it in the off season. I think it would have been a far worse look.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he's still going to have to re-interview for the job, and they're going to bring people in, and of course have to comply with the Rooney Rule and all that, which is a great rule.
Yeah. No, I just want to bring up that counterpoint of just the way it was done, and I understand both sides of hey, if you're offered that job, are you going to say no to that? No, you're going to take that job, but there might be people in the organization who are like, really. So I
no, and I mean you can also say I don't want to get his name wrong. Here's a great. I mean, Eric Bieniemy, the offense coordinator of the Chiefs under Andy Reid, right? That guy needs a shot. He's black. Yeah, he needs a shot.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable to me that he hasn't been. Maybe he's having fun being the OC under that Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes.
Sometimes they don't want to be a head coach, right?
But I think especially this season with the Colts with the Chiefs still rolling and looking good after losing, Tyreek Hill. And they're still just rolling. That's credit to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but also to Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to be shocked if he doesn't get a head coaching job this offseason.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, that is a good example. You're like, if next season he's not coaching the team, but Jeff Saturday is, that is a slap in the face.
Right.
So I get that.
Right.
Anything else jumping out from the NFL?
a whole lot of mediocre teams. I mean, it's still the Bills and the Chiefs. Dolphins have looked
the
good.
Bills have been losing. Yeah, I think it needs a couple weeks to sort itself out, and then it's going to get more interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, I don't think we have much else we want to talk about this week. A little slow storyline wise, but we're going to have a lot more to talk about, coming up with the World Cup starting in Qatar, because that's really the home of soccer. So, I think we're going to have a lot more to talk about after Thanksgiving, or we'll probably sneak a podcast in there somewhere in our schedules, depending what happens. And otherwise, maybe we'll take a little gap in there. But anyway, thank you for listening. Please subscribe. We really appreciate that. That helps keep us going, and hopefully pump out some more episodes. And we'll be back soon.
Peace.